All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Office Hours.
Where are we?
This looks kind of different.
This looks like
I can touch you.
we're in meat space. This is crazy.
We are live from Devnexus today. So this is a special edition of Spring Office Hours. I'm gonna warn you, this is a traveling podcast setup. We have an iPhone shooting the video. We have one microphone between the two of us.
Sure,
We're not sure how it's gonna work, but we like to try new things, so we're gonna give it a shot.
There are hundreds, thousands of developers that are converging here in Atlanta for Devnexus,
Yes.
and our room could fit hundreds, but right now it's empty. It's a little early.
It is empty. The conference starts tomorrow. Today, right now, as we are sitting here, there are a bunch of workshops going on, a bunch of really great workshops. I know Phil Webb and Jonathan are giving one on Spring Boot 3. Venkat has a full room talking about architecture in Java. So some really cool workshops going on. The Java user groups, like leaders,
Leadership,
are
yep.
here. So they took a big picture outside I saw earlier. So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. Yesterday, we had a lot of fun. We got a run in Atlanta.
Yep.
Anytime we go to a new city, we like to get a run in. That was great. We ran around Centennial Park, which is pretty close to our hotel. That was pretty awesome. We got some good food last night. We got to see a whole bunch of people. This is both our first times at Devnexus,
Yep.
and every time I'm walking through a hallway, I'm like, I know you, I know you, I know you. So it's been a lot of fun seeing just so many people from the community. So that's obviously the best part about going to conferences.
Yeah, and we've also had time to actually work side by side,
Yep.
co-working with our partner Nate.
Mhm.
That's also already highlights of
Yeah.
our little trip here.
Yeah, speaking of something that we are working on, that we started working on today, now that we had a chance to sit down together, we have a dedicated channel for this particular
That's gonna be
show.
exciting.
So you can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/@Spring Office Hours. We are still getting transitioning over to that channel, so that's why we're not live on there yet today. We have to upload all the past videos, and we're making our way
The
over
behind
there.
the scenes stuff.
Yeah. So
But also, one of the requests that has been coming in, we get every once in a while is like, hey, I'd love this as a podcast.
Yep.
I'd love to be able to do this. Oh, we actually have somebody in the audience. Come on in.
There's 2 people.
I'd
All
love
right.
to do this as a podcast. So we're working on that as well. Try to get this out in a format that can be consumed on your daily commute.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing is like trying to take what we do in video. We do a lot of video like code demos and stuff. So we're trying to work through that, but we want to make this available as a podcast. So we're working through that. So hang tight with us. We're working towards that. We see we got a lot
Yep.
of people here. Cool.
I'm John from Bangladesh. Good evening from Pad 5. Thanks for joining us. Luke says, hi, Dan. I recently started bringing your serverless videos from Ireland.
Awesome.
Binging. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also from the Netherlands. Hello. Welcome, Mark.
We always have such a diverse
All over.
global audience. I love it.
And one of the things that I've been doing is kind of capturing where they're joining us from. My mom and dad really like to see where everybody's joining us from, and putting that together.
Hi,
as
Mom
a
and Dad.
map.
I know
Mom
you're
and Dad are
watching.
definitely watching. There will always have at least mom and dad watching the show. What else?
Now, I hope they're like watching from different computers so we get the analytics of both of them. not just one,
We'll
so.
have to talk to mom
Yeah,
and
yeah.
dad about that.
All right.
Hello.
Hey, Simon.
One of our regulars. Audio's fine. Thank you for that.
That's
feedback.
good to know.
We appreciate
Yeah.
that. And hello, Icon. Thank you so much for joining.
Thomas, hello.
And let's see what's this. Great. No more having a debate. Whose chat to join? Yeah, that'll be a whole lot easier. We have
That's
heard
true.
that as well.
Yep.
Hello from Iran. Wonderful. In Egypt. And again, hello. So thank you guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. We appreciate all of you.
Great. So we have a couple of things to discuss today. We just have a couple of talking points. I'd also say, as always, please go ahead and get your questions in. We want to answer those questions. So if you have any questions, please do get those in, and we'll try and answer those. There's just a few things that I wanted to cover today, but we'll kind of leave it open. And we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about Devnexus and some things we're looking forward to this week. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And that's going to do
Dan,
the
we expect your
inception.
tutorials. Please don't forget us.
What? Oh, I know. You know, I I get so much anxiety around looking at my YouTube dashboard. When was the last time I posted a video? So yes, I know I'm due, but I was doing a lot of work last week getting ready for this week, and then this week I'm here in Atlanta. So soon.
Alexander asks, do we know if the Devnexus, if they're going to be recording videos, are they going to be online? I think in the past they weren't.
I don't know the answer to that. We will find an answer to that. Maybe if Bob walks back in, we can ask Bob.
Yeah.
Good question, though. Cool. So I just want to mention a couple of things. One, the CFP for Spring 1 at VMware Explorer is still open. We had an original deadline that has moved back to April 15th. So yes, there are now two things, or 14th, sorry. There are now two things that you need to worry about as far as April deadlines go: taxes and the CFP for Spring 1 at Explorer. Yes. So I would get the Spring 1 Explorer done first.
That's
worry about worry about taxes later. This is way more important.
Taxes happen every year.
So get those in. This is happening in August 21st through 24th in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And you can't spell Las Vegas without.
Well, you can't spell Vegas without Vega.
Las Vegas either.
There you go. Come on, I got a tag. So yeah, that'll be exciting. We're going to be there. Hopefully, I mean, I would think we're going to be there. So
I've got 5. I'm submitting 5.
All right, 5. Yeah, I'm going to get at least 4 or 5. So we'll hopefully have this audio, video podcast on the show dialed in by then.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
By then we'll have this all figured out.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have a production crew and everything. So. The point is, this is coming up soon, April 14th, so make sure you get those submitted before you run out of time. So there's that. I wanted to point out, if you didn't notice, if you go on to start.spring.io, look at this little radio button down here, Java 20. So you can now choose Java 20. We are on Spring Boot 3.0.5. And since the last time we kind of talked, because we had a special guest last week, I've been doing some work with virtual threads and Project Loom and things that are coming up. So there is a GitHub repo. I'm going to have a tutorial coming out on this soon, but I just wanted to mention this. I've been sharing out a lot of these kind of graphics that I'm working on. DaShaun got me hip to Excalibur like a year ago, and I love putting together these graphics. They kind of give you a nice way to like walk through a presentation without just doing like the boring old slides. Right? Yeah, it's nice to put together, and it's an easy way to like learn a particular subject. So there's a bunch of graphics in here on what Project Loom is, why virtual threads are important. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because we saw recently that the JEP 425 for virtual threads is now going to be finalized for JDK 21.
That's exciting news.
So that's later this year. So Project Loom is going to be in Java this year. That's pretty awesome. So I'm excited about that.
Working on that.
Yeah. So those were kind of the things that I wanted to talk about. Let's see if we have anything else.
No questions coming.
What else? So what are you looking forward to this week?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the Spring Recipes talk.
Oh, that's me.
Yep.
So we are, Nate and I are talking right after the keynote tomorrow. We are doing a talk on Spring Recipes. This is a common sense solution to common problems. So the idea is that I think I used to say for people new to the Spring world, but I think this is like for anybody in the Spring world, there's just a mass number of projects, right? There's a large number of projects in our ecosystem, and a lot of these projects solve different problems. And so the idea with our talk is, here's a problem, here's a way to solve that problem. And it just kind of gives you that breadth of the different projects in our ecosystem. So yeah, looking forward to that tomorrow after the keynote. I'm looking forward to the keynote tomorrow. I just showed you a picture of the main stage. And I said, I got to get in there early and make sure I'm one of those. I like to sit up front. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. You know who's giving the keynote tomorrow?
No.
Arun Gupta. And so I'm looking forward to that talk.
Yes.
I've been seeing him teasing out some things on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to that. So right off the bat, tomorrow's going to be a busy morning. Breakfast, keynote, dance talking. But I made a joke on Twitter today too. I want I was going to ask Nate if he can just do our talk by himself.
Yep.
Because I wanted to see Marcus's presentation on Spring Boot and React doing like full stack development.
That'd be nice.
So I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I can just like sneak out for a minute and watch it and then come back.
Well, I'm hoping that we can have some good quality time with some of the other presenters.
That's true.
Because the whole like meeting in person is still, it's few and far between. And I just appreciate
Yeah.
the time that we have. So I want to make the most
So
of it.
speaking of, when we're done with this, we are going back to the hotel to get ready for the speaker dinner.
Yes.
So we have a speaker dinner
Appreciate
tonight.
that.
So maybe we can see if we can get some knowledge out of these guys and girls
Yeah.
tonight. So
That's what I have to do.
Yeah.
We do have a comment from Thomas. Thomas says, hey, I watched your serverless video, Dan. It was awesome way to get started. Got Timeleaf components working with it. He's doing some really, really cool stuff with Timeleaf and
I
UIs
remember,
and
yeah.
generating.
don't have a use case yet. Yes.
And well, I think he does have a good use case. I think he's heading towards it, and he's bringing kind of this. We've kind of like the pendulum has swung back to server side
Yeah.
building, and he's kind of giving us an option
Nice.
that it plays nice. He's following all the Spring conventions,
And-
and he's able to get a lot done really quickly.
And what I love with your thought process right now, Thomas, is because I'm saying that nobody has done that before, that's a good thing. Like, find a use case for it. Just because nobody's done it before doesn't mean that there's not a use case for it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
cool. Looking forward to seeing that.
Let's see. It says, did you manage to get him to go along your run?
Who? Arun? Probably no.
Oh, he's
He's
I
a big
know
runner.
Arun is a big runner.
So yeah, we were running a few miles, not the city of Atlanta.
Can we watch the stream? I don't think that the conference is streamed. I think he kind of
Yep.
must be present to win.
You can watch this one though.
Yes. And we have some questions. Hello, gentlemen. Is it good practice to use, Flux to handle business logic, not API layer? If yes, why not completable future?
So I think, it really it depends.
Let's break this
Depends-
question down. a little
Depends
bit.
on the situation. But so let's start with, is it good practice to use Flux? So Flux, Web Flux, reactive streams. Let's start there. Why would you want to use reactive programming? What are some of the things that reactive programming solves?
For me, the top of mind is like the capabilities of being able to build things together. I can kind of stream from one to the other.
Mhm.
The other thing is I can have the data coming in like as it's being generated. I
Yep.
can have that constant flow of data.
Yep.
And then lastly, the pushback.
Yep.
I can push back and say, hey, I'm not ready
The
for
back
more data.
pressure.
Don't call me again. Back pressure.
Yep. And some of the stuff we just talked about with Project Loom, when we get into the thread per request model, there are different ways to solve the inefficiencies of tying up threads in a system, right? One of which is throwing more hardware at it. You could scale vertically, you could scale
Worked
horizontally.
for decades.
But another solution to that is asynchronous programming. So that's kind of some of the things that reactive solves. So is it good practice to use Flux to handle business logic, not in the API layer? And so, yeah, I mean, if anywhere in your application, let's say you're making a call to a database or you're making a call to another service, maybe you're doing that at the service level. Absolutely good to use a Flux there, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
when this is done, go ahead and send it back to me. So yes, I think so. Absolutely. If yes, why not completable future? So I think for a lot of the same reasons that DaShaun mentioned first, I don't have a ton of experience with completable future. I know that with Project Loom, one of the things that is coming, and this will not be in JDK 21, is the concurrent. I'm not sure what the other JEP is on that, but being able to do what some of the things that reactive can do, which, like you said, is, hey, I need to go call two different services, combine those results, and return those back. So that's one reason why I would use reactive to handle that, and not completable future. But to be completely honest, I don't have a ton of experience with completable future, so I'm not sure when you would use one or the other.
Yeah. Tell us more. We'd love to help out, but hopefully that helped. Hopefully, kind of thinking out loud helps you work through. All right. Also, hey, Dan, I'm doing a career transition to IT, and your videos are helping me a lot.
Awesome.
Hi from Brazil.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Do you ever get tired of hearing thank
Not
you for your
at all.
videos?
No, not at all. And for, just a little bit of a backstory. So my wife has started blogging, and she's like, are people going to say like mean things to me on here and on social media? I've said, yes, absolutely.
Yes, they will.
And you have to like understand that is not, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And so for every one of those mean spirited comments I get, I kind of let it go, and I remember all of the really good ones, like from our friend Lucas there. So no, it never gets old.
It never gets old. We got more. Hi, Dan. Do we have any performance results which compare Spring Boot Tomcat with without Loom for service-to-service I/O calls?
Yes, go check out the spring.io blog. There is a blog post on there as far as performance goes. There is some performance results, and the Spring team I know behind the scenes is doing a lot more testing, and will public. I'm not sure what if those are going to be published or not, but I know everybody is constantly doing these different performance tests. There's a blog post with a lot of this on there, though.
Awesome. Thomas is clarifying for serverless.
Yes,
serverless use case.
We know. Yep.
Hi, nice show. Keep going on. Question is it possible to set up Spring Cloud Gateway and OAuth login, but Spring OAuth server is behind the gateway? So let's think about that.
So Spring Cloud Gateway plus OAuth user login. So right there, I'm not using Spring Cloud Gateway to log in an OAuth user, right? I'm moving that over to the to more of a Spring authorization server, right? So the authorization server is called from the gateway.
So if I were wanting to do that, I'm going to draw a little picture here real quick.
Yeah.
If I were wanting to do that, I will.
Yeah, if you want to get that on there, and I'll put that on the screen
what
for
I
you.
might do is, if I have gateway, and I like this idea of having Spring Cloud Gateway up at the front. And what we know about the gateway is I can have these different routes, right? Oops. So I could have one route that says I want to go to login, and that login could be passed to my Spring Cloud authentication. It's not called Spring Cloud, it's just Spring authentication service, right?
The Spring authorization server.
Authorization service. So that route could be a no auth needed route, so that everything else behind that gateway. Oh, I'm going to jump in here again. Everything else behind that gateway could off. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I have my, let's do it this way. I have service A over here. Let's do it this way. Hello. So sitting behind that gateway, I could have these services. I'll check my Spring. I could definitely do this so that, hey, if you tried to access service A, you'd run into that, hey, this requires authentication, and get redirected over to that /login, which doesn't require authentication,
Right.
and could be hitting Spring authorization service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way. Hopefully,
Yep,
that makes sense. I think that's addressing the question.
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else to add on that?
No, that's pretty much it. But you hit. I like your thought process. You don't want to be doing this type of thing at the service level. Let's do everything at the gateway level, and have all of our services behind that gateway. So you're off to a great start.
I love the idea of starting with the Spring Cloud Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just let's let everything, and maybe you don't have, right, there's the 15 factor, which is what I like to do, and the 15th factor is security. Like, maybe you're adding security on the end.
Yep.
If you start with Spring Cloud Gateway, maybe you don't have the auth and the roles figured out yet. As you're building, that's cool. You can add it later and then still protect everything before
Yep.
you go and
Yep.
launch.
Yep. Cool.
Great question.
All right. Thomas. Oh, no, there's another one on GraphQL. How to.
This one?
Yep.
How to make sure that a Spring GraphQL service using other microservices as a data source from the queries and mutations is functioning with the highest performance possible, handling many calls concurrently. How do we do that?
Yeah. So I would question as to what do you mean by highest performance possible? Like what is the problem? Do you have a problem there? So let's start with make sure that the Spring GraphQL service using other microservices as a data source. So I'm in one, I need to like get a list of things, and then I need to call out to another microservice to get some like associated data with that. Um, the only thing I would say there is be careful of kind of the N+1 problem. So if you have like a collection of 100 things, you want to make sure underneath the hood you're not calling that service 100 times.
Yep.
Because that's obviously a big performance thing. We have a solution for that. Take a look at the Spring for GraphQL documentation. Make sure you're only making that one call to that service. That's the biggest thing with that. As far as performance goes, we don't know. Like, so what's going on in your application right now? What are the things that you're looking for? Again, I think with any application, making sure that you understand
What's really happening.
how to observe the application,
Yep.
right? Like, so you can't just push it out to production. We talk about observability a lot. Like, what is logging? What is make sure you're having distributed logging? So this GraphQL service calls service A and service B and does something with that. You need to be able to watch that and see what's going on. So making sure that you are observing what's going on in your application, then we can take a look at, is there something wrong so that we can go ahead and fix it. So
another way I like to look at these kind of problems and situations is, what are my objectives? Like, what do I need going in to the situation? Today, do I know that I have, 1 million calls per minute or per second? Is it functioning today? What are my requirements going in?
Yep.
And set that as part of your process. Like, hey, can I do 1 million requests per second?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Measure it. If you can get those analytics, you can only measure against things that you're capturing, that you're actually measuring. Those are the only things you can improve. So let's look at it that way. Try to go in with like what's the goal that you're trying to meet, and not worry about like, will this scale at 100x?
Right.
Like, will it scale at 200x? Worry about the things you need to worry about today.
Yep.
Get it into production.
There's always a solution down the line. Twitter didn't think they were going to be Twitter when they first started.
Right.
Then you have this enormous user base, and you have to figure out scale. Like, that'll come.
Yeah.
Solve for your first problems now, and you can solve for those later. So.
The other thing that's top of mind with this question is those downstream services that are using different data stores. One of the things that I run into the most often at scale, performance related, is the configuration of the connection pools.
Yep.
Like, how are you connected to that data store? You can't go to production and expect the 1 million requests per second using the defaults for your connection pooling.
Yep.
That won't happen. So there's some things to look at. There's not a single magic bullet, but hopefully the conversation, thank you for asking the question.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps you get to the next step.
Cool.
Yeah, great questions today. Thomas, I implement the functional interface supplier to implement serverless at view component. I'd like to somehow specify a custom view context supplier, which uses a render method instead of get. I hear you. And I've been lucky enough to have these conversations with Thomas offline. We paired on a few things. Nice. So I'm following with his thought process. I could not find a way to extend this functional interface, but Spring Cloud Function scans for supplier beans. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head either.
Yes.
That seems in the weeds.
I like the API. I would like that the API is consistent. Currently is get for a cloud function and render for normal view component. Gotcha. Thanks for pulling us in on that. Hello from Tanzania, East Africa.
Hello.
And here, service A will be a backend resource server. Yes, back to the diagram we're showing. It could be a backend resource server. Yes. Or other.
It could be any service, really.
If you write monoliths, you don't need distributed log. This is true.
That's true.
This is true.
You may
Thanks for coming to the show. We appreciate you always.
Might not be able to scale as well, though.
And here's a question. I have a question about Spring Security and stateless with JWT versus stateful with session. Does using stateful session make sense in microservices architecture? Can you elaborate a little bit on both? So simple. Does using stateful session make sense in microservices architecture? Thoughts? Yes. Yes, it does. And here's one way. Again, we just got done talking about scale and performance and what we're doing. Microservice architectures having again, thinking about just a security use case, having that security in a session. Again, I'm going to just plug in Redis, where I've got a user session for everybody. If I want to revoke access, I can go and destroy that session versus a JWT where I've got to worry about when it's expiring. And once I put it out there, it's hard to disable that JWT. Session is a different story. The other thing about having it in a session like Redis is something that's high speed is yes, I can be distributed. I can be in different data centers and I can have that session shared across all the places.
Yep.
And I don't have to re-authenticate that token.
Right.
So there are different trade-offs, but yes, that is a good pattern. You don't need to avoid it. It's a good pattern to use.
Cool. I like it.
All right. Hi, I discovered this channel today, and you are great. Greetings from Oaxaca in Mexico.
Hello.
Thank you so much for
joining us.
It's great.
We are live from Devnexus. We have nobody in the room right now, and we were going to run through the hallways with the camera, but that doesn't seem like a great show. So
the other thing I like about the show and our community, what we've been doing is we have our community members are answering our other community members with thoughts. I know that we've had problem solved just in the chat during our sessions, and that's just been wonderful. So Ahmed E, be sure to have your observability ready to visualize and investigate your performance issues. That is a big part. And Icon says, you rock, Icon. I'm so happy to see you on all of our sessions. It's been great. And nice talk. Oh, he saw our golden path to spring 1.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you, Simon.
I was actually sitting over here in the back watching DaShaun.
We appreciate you. Simon has also been one of those folks that's always showing up and helping us to move forward. I think we're all learning together here.
Yep. So cool. We are looking for more questions. So if you have questions, get them in. We'd also love some feedback from you on kind of the direction of this. Like we said earlier, we want to get this into more of a podcast form where you can kind of consume this in wherever you're just listening and not you don't need the visuals to kind of back it up. So if you have suggestions or things that you'd like to see on the podcast, please let us know. I think I don't know that have you ever called this a podcast?
Yeah, I have. Like my neighbors, they're like, do you run a podcast? They saw my office. Do you run a podcast? Yeah.
And then I do tell people, I'm like, yeah, I guess it kind of is a podcast. It's more of like a visual podcast.
It's the easiest for them to understand.
Yes,
they understand the concept.
Yes, but I think like we've, at least internally, when we started this as like a live stream. We were just live streaming stuff, but I like the idea of this being a podcast. So we have another talk here or another question from Thomas.
What's the best way to test a Spring library? Oh, see, I know exactly where you're going. What's the best way to test a Spring library? Should I create a Spring application and all components in the test package to test against with a hash?
So there's I'll ask you to elaborate on this for one reason. So when I'm testing my applications that I've built, and I don't know what you're referring to yet, so I'm just going to go with what I'm thinking. When I'm testing the things that I'm building, I'm testing the code that I'm writing. I'm not testing, like if I'm doing a Spring Data JPA application, I'm not testing the repositories, find all, find method, because I don't, they're
exactly where our
conversation. There are tests for that in that test suite somewhere. So I'm not worried about that. I'm focused on the code that I'm writing and not the library itself.
Yes. So I'll elaborate on Thomas's situation. He's been doing amazing work. Let's say he's got a library that does math. It can do addition and subtraction. And he's wondering, what's the best way for me to test that? And my recommendation was, in your library's test classes, you test the addition and subtraction.
Yes.
You don't need to give Dan the ability to go and test all of those use cases.
Right.
In yours. If Dan finds an edge case where the addition or subtraction didn't work, Dan opens up an issue, and then you improve your tests for your library.
Exactly.
So that your library is testing its functionality,
right.
Then your users are going to test based on that functionality.
Right. So when I include your library in my application, I'm testing my code. I'm assuming you are testing all of your internal framework type stuff code. Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good rule of thumb when writing tests. I mean, we as developers tend to not like writing tests as it is. So let's focus in on what we need to focus on, and that is the code that we are writing. Remember, some of the things that tests are doing for us is giving us confidence that the code we are writing is going to go to production without issues, right? And two, just being able to kind of, I don't know where I wanted to go with that. The first one is really what I wanted to touch on. One, giving us the confidence that what we are writing is correct. And then two, making sure that we are writing testable code. So the code that we are writing, if we can write tests against it, then we know we are writing at least better code on the surface.
One of the other projects in the Spring ecosystem is Spring REST docs. So my tests for your library, for example, your tests can actually generate the documentation. They can actually generate a testable interface.
Yeah.
So you can go and test it without having to deploy it and put a wrapper around it. You can actually test it against your documentation. So there's another angle. Your tests can be your documentation as well.
You see who's down there?
And you don't say
it's like
tests 3 times at once, because then
it's like the bell just rings off in his house.
Somebody is talking.
Well, somebody's talking about
I hear it. And he flies in. So wonderful, Jitter Ted. Thank you so much for being
Jitter
here.
Ted. I can't wait for KCDC. I was just thinking. I was like, is Ted gonna be here? I'm like, no, that's KCDC. So we'll see you in a month.
Yes. You know what? We should probably plan on hanging out.
Yes.
In Kansas City.
Yeah, for sure.
Ted.
Some barbecue and some podcasts.
Yes. Barbecue and podcasts. That sounds like a great idea.
Yes. Although I don't know that anybody wants to watch me or listen to me eat barbecue. So
Icon has he's got some really great graphic design chops.
Nice.
Hey, Dan, loved your latest Spring Boot video.
Awesome.
Looks good. DaShaun, hopefully you can demo in depth soon about native images with microservices. Will do. That's what we're here for. I will absolutely do that.
Yeah, the good news about that is at the end of the day, it's just a Spring Boot app, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, whether it's a microservice or a monolith, it's the same to produce a native image, right?
That's correct.
So,
and I think that you'll be very pleasantly surprised by how powerful those native images can be for the right workloads in production. So yeah, we can definitely circle back and show some of that. It has been a while since I've actually done something. Feedback on podcast format would be great for some people. I would suggest going over the questions a little slower when reading them in that format, and maybe creating show notes with links, drawings, etc.
All right, so this is good. One of the things we talked about is wherever you go, we're going to have a place probably on the Tanzu Developer Center for Spring Office Hours. So if you don't know, if you go to springofficehours.io, that will forward you on to the Tanzu Developer Center where we have all the archives of the show. What I want there is a place for you to ask questions. So you can ask your questions the same way that you do in chat. But the advantage for us and for you is if you ask those questions ahead of a show, that will give us time to properly look at the question, really kind of formulate some thoughts on it. We will take your questions, display them on screen for the visual, for those watching on the YouTubes. But then again, we can read that back to the podcast audience. And again, it just gives us a chance to do some research and have something prepared to answer your questions. So yes, I think one, really going more in depth on some of these questions. It's hard to when we're live. When we're live, we're just like, oh, we got a question. Here's my instant initial reaction to that question. Here's my answer. But if I have some time to think about it, I might be able to come up with a better answer. So,
and I think podcast format or this format, one of the things that we've tried to do is we have open door. So if we don't address the question to its fullest on the show, there's a lot of us here. We like to work and we want to make sure you get unlocked. So this office hour is not just, hey, hopefully you get your questions answered here and we'll talk to you later. we do want to work with you. We do want to think through these things. And if it's something that we want to demo, Dan, we'll probably make a demo for it and we'll get it out there as content in some other
Or
form.
like the beautiful drawing you just made, that would be something
Yeah.
great to put in the show notes. We know the show notes need to get better. That's one of the things we're trying to work on. So cool. Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dan says, I want to secure my microservices using API Gateway and Keycloak. Securing using OAuth 2 client credentials, GrantFlow. Is Keycloak the best option?
I swear somebody's asked us this question before.
It
I'm not sure.
gets asked quite a bit. Maybe it
Yes.
was Dan. Dan's a regular.
And I don't have an answer to this.
I don't. Keycloak is kind of a default. It's easy to do. It's easy to get up and running. But to say whether it's the best or not, I'm not sure.
Right.
But
the good news is we had breakfast with a Spring Security member.
Yes, we did.
And we
And
will see him very soon. So maybe we can ask.
We can ask. To say it's the best, we probably have to ask a few more questions.
Yes.
And but you know how to get a hold of us.
Yes.
Is that something you'd like to see? Maybe we do a comparison. Probably figure something out.
I do want to take that question offline though, and
Yeah.
we'll see if we can't get a better answer for you, Dan.
Ted appears. We said test too many times. KCDC, absolutely.
Looking forward to that.
All right.
Oh, this is good.
I am refactoring a PHP application. I am finding it very difficult to define contracts as they currently are due to union types in the DTO as well as repository layers. NoSQL, any tips? There's definitely some deep dive that needs to happen here. But the idea of going to NoSQL, that's absolutely an option. Having a NoSQL backend, doing union types, this is definitely something that we can do. So for this question in particular, I think we need a little bit more information, but you know how to get a hold of us. So what I'm going to ask you right now is show us what you're working on. This whole like PHP to Spring is something that I'm actually working with other customers on as well. So you're good timing, but send us a GitHub if you can, or a Gitter. Send us some link to your code, and then let's find some time to chat about that. And I bet you we can get you.
Yeah, and if you could just find like that one little example, like I know like a large refactor is really hard to just give to somebody and say, hey, fix this. But like, hey, give us one little example of something you're trying to convert, and maybe we can take a look at it and give you some feedback.
Hi, Dan. I just found your channel recently. Thank you for the Spring Boot content.
Awesome.
Do you hold these office hours at about this time regularly?
Yes, it usually is right around 3:30 on a Tuesday every week. So, Eastern time. So yeah, we've been doing this every week as much as we can. So we'll keep doing it as long as we can.
Absolutely. I like the tech lead format. Video on YouTube, podcast, article on the site with timestamps, keynotes, recommendations from inside the video.
Yes, those are all great suggestions, and I like that too. So I like it.
Dan, it would be great if you could create a tutorial on Spring Boot security, stateful with session management on Redis.
Oh, that sounds like
that might be in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's DaShaun's wheelhouse right there.
Get an example for you real soon.
YouTube.com/@DaShaun.
DaShaun. Yeah. Great questions. Great questions. What else? What else are you working on? What else do we have? What else is on your mind?
I'm just like trying to catch up on a whole bunch of stuff. As somebody mentioned earlier, I haven't released a YouTube video in a couple of weeks, so that's always in the back of my mind. I have so many videos I want to like get out, but it's hard to find time sometimes.
It is.
It's crazy that I get to create content as a job, and I still have like a hard time, getting content out there because I'm doing so many different things. And I've only been doing this particular position for a year. So I remember how hard it was to get content out outside of 9 to 5. So if you're out there doing that, stick to it. I know it's hard. Just be consistent. And consistent doesn't mean 5 times a week. It means whatever consistent is to you. Stick with it. I know it's hard. You're doing a great job. But yeah, so I have a lot of videos I'm working on. I'm using a service called VideoTap now, which allows me to translate a video into a blog post. because again, I have no time to like be on all these mediums.
Yep.
And I've always wanted like a corresponding blog post to a video. And it makes a lot more sense to write an entire article first and then use that to kind of drive the video, right?
Yep.
But who has time for that? Like, it's just a lot of work. I wrote this in a recent newsletter. If you've never like produced a video for YouTube,
Mhm.
I don't think everybody really understands like how much work goes into like a 5 or 10 minute video. And so by the time I'm done with that, I'm like ready to move on to the next thing that I need to work on.
Yep.
And so I don't want to spend another day writing an article. So I'm trying to get more content on the blog using the wonderful world of AI and getting those things turned into blog posts. So I'm trying to update the blog as it goes too. So,
But then this is a good question for the audience. When you're looking to consume something new, what do you look for first? Do you look for a video? Do you look for a blog? Do you look for a GitHub repository? What gives you the most bang for the buck? Or is it some combination of those? Let us know in the chat.
and I could tell you, I've asked this question a lot. So even if I get 50 people right now saying I look on YouTube,
Mhm.
that is not the. It's a very. It depends on who you're asking,
Yep.
right? Like some people like to watch videos, some people like to read. It doesn't matter. But yeah, everybody's all across the board.
Oh, yep.
So
Yep. Twitch, I definitely watch more Twitch than I do YouTube.
see, I'm the exact opposite.
Yep.
I don't watch Twitch at all.
Yes, I like the live experience. Agree.
So I do too. But again, now different reasons, right?
Mhm.
I like the live experience because I do like watching someone's thought process. Like,
Yes.
how does this person think? And there are some more things that you can learn from that process. But if I want to know how to do X in Y, and I need that in 5 minutes, I'm watching a YouTube video that's 5 minutes long. I don't have an hour and a half to watch a live stream on how somebody's thought process got there, right?
Yep.
So again, different, for whatever you're trying to solve for, there's a different solution for it.
Yep. Introduction video for initial understanding, then sample code.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, I think, where I'm at.
So that's where I'm at. So the video that I make, I embed that on the blog post and I have the code in the blog post. It's not a verbatim transcript. It's
Mhm.
Here's a summary. If you really want the details, go watch the 30-minute video.
I like it. We're all learning here.
Yep.
But you are our community. We're here for you. We want to make sure that you're getting the things that you need.
Yep.
And that's why we have the show.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your questions. Let us know what you're working on.
Yep.
Whether we answer it here on the show or offline, we're here to help.
Yep. Oh man, I gotta show this off.
Oh, yes.
We got some new stickers and these are bigger. Look at that.
Version 2, the stickers they've been released. They're out in the wild.
DaShaun greeted me with these
Yes.
at Devnexus. I'm pretty excited. So
we've got a nice little backlog. A
if
bunch
you-
of people have.
if you are here and watching this, kudos to you. But if you're gonna be here, let us know. We'll give you some stickers.
Yep. Find us here at Devnexus. We'll have some. But then, as always, stickers at springofficehours.io. I do have a backlog because we ran out. Version 1 is no longer available. Version 2 is coming your way. So if you've already sent in your email, make sure when you put the address in the way that I'm going to put on the envelope, because I think I've had some mishaps along the way with not knowing how to address envelopes in different countries. 25 countries and counting where we sent our
Wow,
stickers.
That's awesome.
Anywhere in the world, send us an email, stickers at springofficehours.io, and we will send you some stickers.
All right. We had a question there about C++. I don't know where that's coming from. But.
That's cool. Hey, ask away. This might not be the right show for that question, but
But
we're all trying to get production.
Everything's based on C these days.
Yeah. And what about ChatGPT?
Love ChatGPT.
It works. It should use it.
Should be in your tool belt for sure.
Here's a good topic. My company is switching from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch.
Nice.
The current app uses Spring Data Elasticsearch. I am aware of a Spring Data OpenSearch. Will my app break not using new features?
I am aware or not aware, maybe.
I don't know the answer to that one. but
I
that is a
have-
good one.
Yeah, I have not used Spring Data Open Search, so that I'm guessing that's a community-driven project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that Elastic changed their licensing.
Gotcha.
So
Was
could
that
be,
recent?
a year or two ago,
Okay.
I believe. So yeah, but one of the things is all the questions that we bring up, those are questions that we bring up on screen for a reason, so that we have them in the recording. And we want to get all of your questions answered, whether it's on the show or not.
Cool.
Spring security, challenging, but I think I got it figured out.
Yes, so I get this a lot. Spring security can be overwhelming, a little bit daunting at first, kind of like Spring in the fact that it can do so many things. But if you have narrowed down what you want to use it for, then you might be able to kind of limit the things, the documentation, the tutorials that you're looking at. So go in with a clear indication of what you're trying to use Spring Security for, what you want to get out of it, and that might help you rather than going, I just need to learn everything there is to know about Spring Security. Unless you're Josh Cummings, who's here, then good luck with that. There's a lot to it.
Yes, it's good. SEU James we've done some live sessions on it. He does have a repository that's available. You can go look at it. It's public. So yeah, again, our community, helping our community.
Love it.
There's lots of options out there. And yeah, this is by far my favorite community,
Yeah, it's been great.
this group. So yeah, any other questions, get them out there. If you're at Devnexus, absolutely come find us.
Yes, please. Or we'll find you.
And what else?
Just looking forward to, I'm looking forward to speaker dinner tonight. You know, one of the things that has always kind of stuck with me throughout my career is if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You should be, yes.
I will not be the smartest person in the room tonight, so
chance.
I'm excited about that.
Not a chance.
So yeah, I'm just looking forward to like picking everybody's brain and breaking bread with a bunch of really cool people. So
yeah, one of the topics that I spend a lot of time on is getting people upgraded to Spring Boot 3.
yep,
And my good friend Jonathan Schneider is here.
Nice.
The author of Open Rewrite, a tool that we've talked about on the show quite a bit. So I'm excited to hang out with him a little bit,
cool.
find out what's new in the in this ever growing world of recipes and having remediation as code. That's going to be pretty exciting.
I'm excited to hang out with my coworkers. You know, Whitney's here, Nate's here, Josh finally got in.
Yes.
So I know he
He
had a
spent like
really
18
long
hours
travel day
or
yesterday.
16 hours in the airport or so.
So I know he got a little sleep today. So I'm hoping to see him tonight. So yeah, we don't all get together that often. So I'm excited to kind of hang out with you guys.
This is a comment question. Do I need to learn Spring Framework before learning Spring Boot? No, you don't have to.
No, I think you learn the two in parallel. If you head over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@DanVega, I have a Spring Boot crash course. Again, coming back to what we just talked about with Spring Security. With Spring, you can do so many things. It solves so many problems. If you pick one thing that you're going to do, so in this particular video, I am building a REST API that talks to a database and we launch it into production. If that's your path, then you have a narrow path to learn. But you create a new project from Spring Boot, and as you do these things, you're using Spring Framework underneath the hood. Spring Boot is built on the foundation of Spring Framework, right? So you can learn the two in parallel. These days, again, you're going to create a new project at start.spring.io. Start with Spring Boot, learn Spring Framework along the way, and learn the features of both. As you come up with problems, you'll find solutions, and you may not understand.
And you'll ask your questions, and we'll help you get over it, or somebody from the community will.
Yeah. So I would say that's a great place to start. But no, you can kind of learn them in unison.
Yes. Our first time together in Meet Space. We are at Devnexus in Atlanta.
Yep.
So we're here streaming live. Conference is going on for the rest of the week, and yeah, this is a chance. So hopefully we'll do more of these in the future.
Yep, that'd be awesome. Maybe we'll just get like a similar background and make people think.
I'm obliged to upgrade to Spring Boot 3 because of a deserialization security issue, but I never understood what was the problem. Do you have more info on the issue, please? I think I know which issue you're talking about. That was the one that came out in 3.0.3, right?
I don't know which
That
one.
we wanted everybody to go, or is another. I'm not sure exactly which one you're speaking of. So yeah, I'm sorry I don't have any more information on that. But if it's already been fixed, you're welcome. Like, let's go forward, upgrade. If you need help upgrading, that's where we can help. I will point you to the open rewrite recipe for upgrading from Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3 and go from there. And if you have more questions, you know how to get a hold of us.
And I would look. I don't know what this issue is either, but usually if it's like a big security issue, we would bring that into 3 and have a patch for an earlier version. So make sure you take a look around and see if it's available for that.
Thomas, what are you asking me? What are you asking? How would one create compile time checks of application code? Is that what? That's unit tests, right?
I'm not sure what he's
What are
asking.
you? Compile time checks of application code. Tell us more.
Yeah.
Tell us more. I like where your head's at.
Your IDE is doing that for you.
Yeah, I like where your head's at. So
Alright.
wonderful. This is
Cool.
great.
Yeah.
We're happy. We're glad that we got to do our show.
I know.
It seems like it's working. You guys always show up. We appreciate you.
Now we have the confidence that we can do this again the next time we're in person. So.
Yes, this is great.
Yeah.
It worked out. The Wi-Fi here is thumbs up.
It is today because barely anybody's here. Tomorrow may not be the same.
Yes, note to self. Note to self.
So yeah.
All right.
Oh, favorite food.
Well, that one's easy for me to answer. Barbecue.
Man, I don't know that I have one. If I had to pick one, I would say like I like steak. I like chicken wings. I like we had some great. We had a great dinner last night. I had some sushi last night that I really enjoyed. So those are 3 faves.
We are wrapping up, but get your questions. If you got questions, we're still here. We're not in a rush. If you got questions, bring them. Otherwise, yeah. Pad 5, awesome. And Thomas says, no, like custom compiler checks. I want to check the HTML template matches the parameters that were defined in my Kotlin code.
Yeah, I don't know.
I see what you're saying. I told you my solution. Back in the day when I was generating HTML, this is kind of where he's going. He wants to validate that, hey, the output from my HTML template should work. And he wants to put in different things. Build tests, like have some known inputs. If I put in AAA, I want to get a template that looks like this. My HTML should look like this. And the thing that I did, instead of having the full HTML and doing a diff on the full HTML, was I generated an MD5 hash or some other hash of what that HTML output would be. So I've got some inputs. So on this set of inputs, and you can do as few or as many as you want to get those edge cases, validate they work, validate that the output is the same, but then you're just matching the HTML or the MD5 hash of those outputs, so you don't have to have a big HTML document inside of your tests.
You could do functional testing too against the output, but yeah, that's very specific. So.
Yeah.
And JitterTed says, yeah, compile time checks equals create and use more types, right?
Oh, there we go.
You're checking against those types. That's a good way to do it too. So, but not so much the HTML, but.
You know, here, do we have a GitHub repo with configured GitHub actions to build latest of Spring Java and support native image build? I just want to use it.
Yeah, so we both have some.
Yeah.
We don't have like a one place to like say, here's where you can do that.
We have a GitHub repo that maybe we should put some of these examples in that we reference a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea.
But yeah, DaShaun, I would check out DaShaun's GitHub. Probably the latest few.
Yeah, I have a GitHub repo. Yeah, it's the dev.dashaun.gateway or .service.gateway. That one has GitHub actions as well as Circle CI actions that are building native images. So that's a good place to start. But yeah, I should probably simplify that and get something out for you. Alexander, I think I could do that.
Cool.
Yeah, make it easy. Oh, here's a good one. Do you recommend a book for microservice using Spring Boot?
So I was just looking for some architecture. So I don't know specifically for Spring Boot, but where is my friend?
Yeah, I've got a couple of books.
So there are a couple from Neil Ford and Mark Richards. So Fundamentals of Software Architecture and Software Architecture, the Hard Parts. So these two books go into kind of breaking down architecture just in general. And I think this is a good place to start. If you have a really good grasp on this, great. You can look more specifically into Spring Boot. But I think with microservices in architecture in general, it's like, let's take a look at the problems and what some of these different architectures will solve. So I would start there. Also, Sam Newman has really great books on architecture. That's another good place to start in general architecture. Once you understand that, now you can move into microservices in Spring. Yeah, my battery's dying. That's right. But once you move into microservices, you can definitely look at the Spring documentation is a really good place to start for all the different services that you may need. So there's Spring Cloud, there's a whole bunch of projects under Spring Cloud. That's a really good place to start. I know you have a couple books too.
Yep, the books that I'm going to recommend. The first one is Learning Spring Boot 3. Third edition by Greg Turnquist, friend of the show. The other one is Cloud Native Spring in Action with Spring Boot and Kubernetes,
Great,
by our good friend Thomas Vitale.
Yep.
Those are two
and
I definitely can recommend.
And if you could throw Jitter Ted's comment up there.
Yeah.
So this is what I was getting at with the two books.
This one?
The no, all the way at the bottom.
Oh, here
Start
we go.
with, yeah. So this is what I was getting with the two books on architectural, like general architecture. I think with all of the buzzwords today, people are very quick to grab the latest thing and use that for whatever project they're on. Not every single project needs to be a microservice, and understanding when to use it is a really great addition to your software development skills. So understanding when to use a particular tool is just as important as a tool. So again, I lean into like those two books by Neil Ford and Mark Richards. I've learned a lot from them. So understanding when to do that first. So yes, most of the time, starting with a modulith if you can, because out of the modulith, you'll start to realize that certain things may be better as a microservices. Like this particular component in our modulith does not scale well. Maybe we can pull that out. Or the UI is something that is often changing and we don't want to change the entire application with it. Those are the types of things that will come out of that modulith as you are in production. So great point, Ted.
We had a question and answer. What package structure you recommend for APIs, package by feature versus package by layer? If package by feature, should services in different packages be able to call each other? And JitterTed has the answer that I wish that I came up with that fast. Package by feature, then layer. Features can call the public APIs from the other features.
Yeah, it depends. I'm a package by layer person, but again, the types of applications I'm building are pretty trivial. So. And there's other architectural approaches too. So, but
feature first and then layer. Love it. And for Spring, we had another recommendation from Valor for Spring Security. Check Daniel Garnier DevOps video.
Really great 3-hour introduction to Spring Security. Daniel is awesome. He's helped me with so much. So definitely.
And a +1 to Thomas Vitale's book.
Yep.
And full stack monoliths are coming back. The seniors at work always say the 2000s are back when I'm telling them what I'm working on.
Nice.
Yep. Everything old is new again. That pendulum just keeps on swinging.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Currently watching and working on a project. That's the way to go. I like to have all of y'all. I like to have co-working.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the works. Excellent.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah.
Marco.
Marco
Spring Security Blog Post is
codes.
also awesome.
Love Marco. Okay, cool. So before the phone, aka the video of this presentation dies, we should call it a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is fun. Thanks for joining us live from
Thank you so much.
Devnexus. If you are here at Devnexus, come say hi. We will be back next Tuesday with a new show. And again, we are working on more of a podcast format, so we'll keep you up to date with that. Also, pay attention to Twitter. Like I said at the beginning, we have a new YouTube channel for just this show. So that is youtube.com/@springofficehours. As we get everything transitioned over there, we'll just use that and the Spring Developer channel on YouTube. So it'll be less places for you to have to remember to go and chat. So we are constantly trying to improve things. We appreciate your feedback. Thanks for joining us, and
Thanks.
we'll see you next week.
See ya.